Okay, I see that all of the users are logged in, which is great. So I think we can kick off. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you've had a great week thus far. And it's always great to look forward to the weekend. Based on my conversations with my network in the civil infrastructure space, it's really great to hear that everyone is getting quite busy now under level 1, which is always fantastic news. And welcome to part 2 of this segment in our webinar series. So if you are joining us for the first time, or if you missed part 1, don't worry. You can always catch that on our Baker Baines YouTube channel. I will have the link to the info at the end of the webinar, but just to give you some frame of reference as to what this webinar series is about. So as you can see, the title is Win More Bids from Tender to Construction with BIM for Roads. And the reason why we put this together is it's nice to look at a full circle solution from the bidding stage right up to construction. And this webinar series is a 3-part webinar series, and we're looking at challenges that have been faced in the bidding, design, and construction management or monitoring phase. And as for today we're going to be looking at the detailed design stage, so getting right up to construction documentations for your roads, and we're going to take it from there. And on the right hand side, you can always see that we are using a whole range of really BIM intelligent technologies that will help us aid in achieving this task. And of course, I will be your host for this webinar. I am Shuaib Yunus. I'm the BIM technical specialist for civil infrastructure and mining here at Baker Baines in South Africa. I hold a BTech degree in civil engineering, and in conjunction with that, I am a civil consultant, Autodesk certified instructor. I am a speaker and have spoken at many events both nationally and internationally, the last one being Autodesk University 2020, and I see myself as a champion of BIM for civil infrastructure. A little bit about me: when I'm not working, I really enjoy hitting the beach. Deep sea fishing is always really awesome. Powerlifting and archery is a bit on a hold at the moment, but we will probably get back into it really soon. In terms of us as Baker Baines, this is more or less us in a snapshot. We have 4 main segments: survey and design, design software consultancy, business process improvement, as well as blended learning. And if we had to associate that to brands, as you can see, we are very big on the scan to BIM services in the build space, and we partner with Topcon and Leica. Topcon for the construction side, so civil engineers, mining engineers, that is your go-to tool for construction. It has a really good IP rating, those type of things that you would need on a rugged construction site. And if you're looking more buildings and interiors, of course, there's Leica. We use the BLK 360, which works fantastically. In terms of the software or the vendors that we partner with, of course, Autodesk is a big part of it. You're going to see a lot of IDAS today, and how we can actually use it for the stormwater design. And of course, if you've attended my AU session or looked at my previous webinar series on Scan to BIM, you will actually understand how great ClearEdge 3D is. So if you're not aware of it, what it does is it takes or extracts geometry from a point cloud and converts it to Revit intelligent families that can actually be brought into the software and makes your modeling that much more quicker, reducing time to about 70 to 75%. It's definitely a game changer. If you haven't checked it out, I'll have my details at the end of the webinar. You can always reach out to me and we can take it from there. We are also proud to be a BBBE level 1 contributor, which is fantastic to show our diversity in our company, as well as being listed as a Autodesk Service Provider Select and also featuring on the services marketplace. Last but not least, of course, training is a really big part of helping civil engineers or professionals in the AEC industry adopt the technology in a much more intelligent way. We are an Autodesk authorized training center, as well as we partner with CAD Learning, being the only provider in South Africa that gives you full blended learning access. What this means is we have an online portal that has all of the videos, over 50 plus Autodesk titles. So if you want to learn civil 3D, InfraWorks, Revit structures, Map 3D, vehicle tracking, Inventor, It is all there, pre-recorded with exercises that you could actually learn from step by step. And the great thing being in the civil space and working under such high pressure, if you have to learn something on the go, whether it be at 2 a.m. in the morning, which I hope you're not doing, but it does happen sometimes, you can actually reach out to this platform and it will guide you accordingly. And we cater, if you're interested in the type of fields that we are in, we do building, which is architecture, civil and structural, energy, process plant, and manufacturing. All right, so now let's just jump into today's session. What are we going to be covering? From all of you that know me quite well on this webinar, you know that I really like to paint a picture and create a perspective as what we're doing. You do know that the key thing that I believe in is understanding before application. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to look at the perspective at this stage of the road's life cycle, as I would call it. And then we will jump in straight to how we would use BIM intelligent tools to actually achieve this task. Very importantly is the closing, where we will focus on the key takeaways and of course how we can actually help you to design a better world in a much more BIM intelligent manner. Of course, as you're watching the webinar, if you have any questions, please fire them away in the chat box. I will definitely get to them at the end of the session. So if you're curious, pop that in and we will address it at the end. Alrighty, so industry perspective. At this stage, how are professionals currently doing things and what challenges do they face? So a typical scenario, especially at the detail to construction, right? So let's say the tender has been awarded and we won the tender, so yay. And what we would need to do generally is start with the prelim design, do the detailed design reports as well, get up to a tender level in terms of our design that is included with the BOQ being bill of quantities, and that has to be included in for your submission. Once we have that, you need to generate the tender drawings, which is then submitted to a municipality in conjunction with the entire tender document. And then this is put out so that a contractor can bid to construct the road. So this is generally what happens. Now, at this stage, this is what we are currently faced with. You're actually starting with the design right now. As I've highlighted in part one, we normally go to Google Earth and we would plot a polyline along the roadway and extract an elevation profile that's just a snapshot, but you don't have any intelligent CAD data. So you don't have the site that is modeled or the geolocation set. And also, if you're going to be appointing a surveyor, which you will, depending on where the site is actually located and the extent of the site, it could take some time before you receive the survey data. Especially under lockdown, it could be a bit of a mishmash, if I could use that word, but I'm going to show you a really cool way that you can actually collaborate it much better. And without the survey data, you've got more pressure in getting those documents out, especially for a tender, because you're given a set date to have a tender briefing, making sure the documents are compiled, and you need that data to get accurate design estimates as well as produce proper tender drawings. Now, sometimes GIS data is available from municipalities. If there's a designated GIS technician or professional, you can get that data, but with certain software solutions, you cannot actually import that. It cannot be read, which makes it quite a futile process. And the last thing is the design tools are actually static, meaning that you have to update everything manually, and it becomes very, very difficult to actually keep track of those, resulting in errors and revisions even before you go out to tender, and that's quite a nightmare. You don't want to get something and like keep sending out addendums and so on. It's not the way to go. All right, so now that you understand the picture, let's jump right into it. So this was the project brief that we are working on. As you know, that we've got a road that's 3.2 kilometers long. It's situated at the south coast, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. And we were in charge of doing the road and stormwater design. And today we're going to go right up to final construction drawings. Okay, so where did we actually stop in part one? So just look at the image on your right hand side. That tells the entire story. This is what we had concept stage, which is mind-blowing. First of all, our advantages are we already have a 3D site at conceptual prelim level. What's associated with that is prelim survey data. And because we had that survey data that could be imported into a CAD environment, we already have the horizontal and vertical profiles generated, which are actually dynamic. Meaning that if I had to change the radius of the curve, or if I had to move the tangent of the road or something like that, everything updates along with the long section as well as the earthworks, setting out data and so on. We also have the technology where we can actually bring in the GIS data. So you're going to see that in a short while. Not only that, we have the option to either delete the prelim or concept stormwater network that was provided by us using an automated function in InfraWorks, or we could actually modify it. Today we're going to delete it, which most consultants actually do, and you're going to see how much quicker it's going to be. Last but not least, we've got a dynamic interface. Like I said, everything updates accordingly when it comes to quantity, setting out points, etc. And of course, this always puts us way ahead of the curve at this stage. So our time pressure is actually reduced. We can focus on our task at hand, and we can negate, if not have any errors. I've tried and tested this in consulting, and using this workflow, I had no errors going up to tender stage. Okay, so let's start off by creating a project and collaborating with the teams remotely. Now we're going to use this for Civil 3D, and you're going to see how much easier this is. Because even though we are in level 1, certain team members still might be distributed at home or working at the office, you might be at the construction site, you still need to collaborate irrespective of circumstance. So let's actually look at what we can do. So let's jump into BIM 360, now known as Autodesk Docs. So you will see that I'm actually signing in here with my Autodesk account. Great thing is if you have the AEC collection, you will have access to this now. So check it out under your project list. So what we can do is give our project a name. So I'm going to be very generic as usual. So Roads Webinar 2021, we can actually select the type of project that it is going to be. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of categories that are already preloaded into Autodesk Docs, right? And I'm going to just use that one there. And then the construction type, I can set that. I can put in a project value. We can select currency. I wish it was USD, but we will go to rands, right? And then you can also specify the contract type, start and end. It's really nice to do this. Reason being is that when you generate reports in BIM in Autodesk Docs, it is automated and it has a lot of this information preloaded in. All right, so you can see you can give it an end date, start date, you can set the contract. Again, the fields that have an asterisk next to it are compulsory, the rest are fairly optional. I can even attach an image. So let's go and do that, make it look a little bit fancy, if we could use that word. And you can see we have attached the image. We can also populate the project address, which I strongly recommend. You're going to see that. So I've just put that in quickly. You can see this is where it is, near the R61 on the south coast. So just drop that in. And I think we've got all of that populated, and we can say save and continue. Right, you can see the project has been saved, and now I can actually activate the modules that I would need, and I can create the project, right? So we're not going to use a template here, we're going to do it from scratch with a very basic folder structure. And as you can see, I will just activate the modules that I need, the two being the document management as well as design collaboration. Very important for Civil 3D, Revit, and also Plant 3D users. It has a direct integration now with the software, which helps you collaborate with anyone, anywhere in the world. So I have assigned all of those modules that I would need, and now I'm going to add a member to the team. So let's say I know the surveyor that's going to be giving me the data, and maybe she's based somewhere far away, so I will add her to the project, Anine. And once we drop her in, we can actually give her a specified role. So we gave her a company name, so she's going to be in charge of the surveys and the GIS data, and we can give her a role accordingly that's preloaded, or we could type one in. But we've got surveyor here, so that is perfect. I can set up permissions as I'd like. I'm just going to leave it as a default for now. You might have seen a lot of our previous BIM 360 webinars, and it works on the same principle. So here we are, I'm the civil engineer, she's the surveyor, so whatever data she captures, she will be able to put it up on this environment of a common data environment. Okay, so once we have that, we will jump to the document management phase where we will go into the place. Now, just to show you how easy this is, right? I am going to add a folder. Now you can add as many folders as you'd like. You can be much more specific than I am. All right. So let's see, what name can I give this? I would think maybe civil design will be good. Yeah. So let's type in civil design. You can see it pops up there. Simple as right clicking or clicking on that 3 dotted ellipsis button. I can add a folder below it and I can keep going as I would see fit. So Civil 3D users you should be familiar with data shortcuts. All right. You can see how we can actually link it to a cloud system where you wouldn't even need a server anymore. Okay. So again, I can put attributes, I can set permissions if I'd like. So only certain people will have access to it. And you can see I've created the rest of the folders and I've got one for roads and stormwater. Maybe we can add a subfolder here. So I'm going to call that Prelim design, and maybe let's just make one also for the detailed design. So if you recall previously in part 1, we did not add any data to this platform. We're actually working off our desktop or a server. I'm going to show you how easy it is to bring your files into BIM 360 because I get this question quite a lot from my network. Okay, so here we are. If I switch to Civil 3D, there's the Prelim design that we did in part 1 of the webinar. You can see we've got the road, we've got the long section, we've had the tables that we did previously. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say save as, and because I have the BIM 360 desktop connector installed, I will have the option to sync directly to BIM 360. So you will go to your team hub or your company hub, it will be called whatever your company name is, and you will go to your project folder. So I'm going to go to Roads Webinar 2021. And under the projects files, I am going to save this in our civil design folder that we just created, and I'm going to drop it in the Prelim design folder. Okay, so I'm going to drop it in there, and I'm going to hit save. And once I do that, you'll see it actually shows you that it's saved to the cloud. You've got cloud in brackets there, which is quite cool. Okay, so now this is automatically on the cloud. And you've also got the BIM 360 button that syncs in directly with Civil 3D. Again, it also applies to Revit as well as Plant 3D. And if I go to my folder, you'll see that I will see the same folder structure in Civil 3D itself, which is quite nice. And here we are. Actually, I must just move that into Prelim. I think I didn't select that folder correctly, but it's there. Okay, it's simple as moving. Same thing you would do on your desktop. All right, so our file is now on Autodesk Docs. The next thing, of course, you've seen that I've created a folder for the Civil 3D data shortcuts. If you're not familiar what data shortcuts are, it allows you to link in files and other users to incorporate them into their designs and work accordingly. So let's say, for example, one person is created the site and they created a data shortcut for it. That site now can be linked into the person that's doing the roads, and then you might have a separate person doing the pipe networks, separate person doing the grading for the platform or where the building will actually sit on the building footprint. You can actually link in those data, and the person busy with it, it will be locked. So I couldn't edit. If I was doing the roads, I would not be able to edit what the stormwater engineer is doing currently. But as I refresh my drawings or update my references, I will see his model getting longer or progressing as I'm doing mine, which is pretty cool. So let's look at how we can use Collaborate Pro, previously known as BIM 360 Design, in achieving this task. So as you can see here in Autodesk Docs, we're on version 1 and the drawing is currently locked because I have it open. And if you had to preview it on the platform, you can see it comes in quite nicely. Everything is in there. It also comes in with the associated sheets if you had any. At this stage, we don't have any. And you can see it's locked. Now what I can do is I can close this drawing. All right, so once I close this drawing, and let's see, if I go to, you can see first of all the cloud icon is there. If I go to BIM 360 and if I hit refresh, you should see that that lock icon has now disappeared. So it's quite intelligent in managing files. I would have been able to open it and view it, but I wouldn't be able to do any types of edits. You can see it's synced as well as it's on version 1. If I keep the drawing name the same and I upload it, it will go to version 2 and it will incorporate the changes. As you can see, we've got a GIS folder which our surveyor Anine has uploaded the files to, as well as the survey itself. So normally the surveyors will give us a AutoCAD drawing as well as the land XML or CSV file or text file, and this is currently what she has provided me with. So you can see as soon as she's done with the survey, irrespective of where she is in the country or in the world, if you're doing international work, she can always upload it directly to the platform and bring it in there directly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a data shortcut for this. Now I'm going to show you, first of all, you're going to need to set a working folder, and I'm going to route this instead of to my server. I'm going to actually do it to my BIM 360 account, which is amazing. Like I said, there's no need for servers anymore if it's cloud collaborated, and it's much more secure, right? So you can see that data shortcut is there. Now the common mistake that users make here is not knowing where to go next. I'm going to show you this. Like you can see, that's the wrong button to create. If I go maybe to set shortcuts folder, you'll see it's blank, right? Now you can do this by trial and error, but the correct thing is to actually create a new shortcuts folder. Now I can give this a name, right? So I will call it again Civil 3D Design Shortcuts, for example, and you can see it's already routed to my BIM 360. The cool thing is if I move it anywhere in BIM 360, it's going to update that file path automatically. We didn't have that functionality before when working off a server. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to link in that survey data now, and you can see that shortcut has been created where that survey data can now be brought in to my detailed design. So we've actually created the survey data. Currently you're seeing the prelim, but you're going to see how we can actually sort that out right now. Okay, so now for the interesting part where I think everyone's going to be locked in. Creating the construction design model from the prelim using Civil 3D and IDAS. Now at this stage, like I said, if you're doing it in the traditional way, you have no data. You would have to literally start from scratch. Now we've already got prelim data. Can we reuse that data or modify it? Absolutely yes. Please don't go and restart a new drawing and start from scratch, please. Although you can, I strongly don't recommend it. This is going to save you so much of time. So just follow on here and you will see what I'm talking about. And let's start off by importing the survey data and GIS data captured by the surveyor. So let's switch into Civil 3D. Again, I am going to open up the prelim design that I did that has now been uploaded to Autodesk Docs in BIM 360. You can see it's actually linking in from the cloud. So it might take a few seconds depending on the size of your drawing, as well as your internet connection. And as you can see, the file has loaded perfectly, right? Now what I am going to do, instead of creating a new drawing, I'm going to go and save this as a detailed design. Simple as going and save as, and then giving it a name and dropping it into BIM 360, right? So this will be our detailed design drawing. Now imagine if you had to do this creating a new drawing and starting from scratch. It's going to take you much more time. As you can see, it's already routed to my BIM 360 file path, which is perfect. I'm going to drop it in my detailed design folder. And that is it. So we've got now a drawing that we can actually use to do our final design so that our construction documentation / tender documentation can be generated. And as you can see, it's saved on the cloud. So that is the first step, right? The next step now is if we go to BIM 360, right, you can see, first of all, that is the prelim drawing, right? Let's just go back here quickly. Okay, so we are importing that. I'm just going to forward this a bit quickly. Right, we save the detailed design drawing and it is on the cloud. Now what we're going to do here, let me just skip back a little bit. Right, so we've created a data shortcut already, and you can see we've got all of the associated data from our prelim design. And all I've got to do is drag and drop that survey data into the drawing. Right, so this is the data that has been received by Anin, our surveyor that has uploaded it. I can give it a description and I can set whichever style I want to here. Okay, so let's go with a 0.5 meter to 1 meter spacing for the contours. And here we are. Now we've already got the alignment in that we might have to make some adjustments depending on the final survey data. And you can see it shows that our survey data has been linked. And again, this is not using a server, this is using purely cloud collaboration. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to bring in the GIS data. Right? So again, Anin has actually uploaded this to our cloud, so we can bring this in. If you have two options, either to link it from here, or most people actually just download it off here and import it into Civil 3D. It's totally up to you. And if I go to the GIS folder, you'll see that we've got a service duct at a certain point in the road. And as you can see, I have been bringing it into BIM 3 from BIM 360. It's actually just downloading that very quickly. And once it has been imported, you will see that the GIS menu actually pops up. Now this is built into Civil 3D. I can actually bring in the object data that's actually associated with this. Sometimes you might not have any, but in this case I actually do have it. So good GIS data has a lot of metadata attached to CAD elements. So if I go to select field, you can see that there is a lot of metadata that's actually attached to this, some being CAD and some also being a lot of different elements that I can tick on and off. I am just going to leave it as it is with all of that ticked on. Once we hit OK and we hit OK to import that in, you can see the import has been complete. Now, if I zoom in, this is what has come in. It might look just as a polyline, but let's go and check out the actual properties. As you can see, we've got the start and end levels. We've got all of the associated data. Not only that, if I go to the OD, which is an object data table, there is all of the information in there. We've got the start invert, end invert, the size of that culvert. You can see it's 1.5 by 1.5, so maybe like a duct type of scenario that's running below the road or below the NGL at that point. So you can see how easy it is to actually generate or incorporate GIS data into your design. But we don't want to just stop there. We want to actually create an object from it. Now let's look at what we can do. Again, we are using the Devitech IDES template for Civil 3D, which is fantastic. Strongly recommend that you use it. And what we're going to do is we're going to change that or assign an object to it. Now, what we can do is once I select that line, I am going to go give it a name. So this network is probably, let's just call it a service duct, just to keep it simple. Right? We can assign what type of structure it is. Because it is a duct, we can actually select it from the Devitech IDES templates that has been built in with the pipe networks. So we've got a 1.5 by 1.5. Of course, it's going to be relative to the survey data, right? You can see the prelim data is still there. You can actually delete it if you like, or what I do is just switch it off. And I want the elevation at the outside top of the pipe. You could go crown, you could go invert, depending on what you want. And you can see we have now generated it into an object. If I go to the Civil 3D object viewer, this is what is currently there. Now, what is the value of this? You will see just now where we can actually take this and impose it onto our long section to ensure that the cover has been maintained. And this brings us to adjusting the road vertical profile or vertical alignment, whichever one you want to call it. So this is where we stopped, okay? And if I go here, you can see the prelim stuff is still here in the long section. Do I have to delete this long section? No. But just to show you that it is still that data and we're going to change it, I will actually show you what profiles we have available here. So if I go to the profile properties, you can see it's still the InfraWorks surface data that's there. And if I select that profile, okay, and if we go to the profile properties, it's still the initial profile that we have done. Now, how do you incorporate the latest survey data onto your long section? It's very easy. Let's get into that. So I would go and create a surface profile, and I would go to my road. And what I will do is that survey data that have now been provided to us by our surveyor, I will drop it in. Now, currently, you might not be able to see it, but after a few seconds, you'll see that there's an extra profile there. And if I go to the profile properties, you can see that is the detailed survey data that has now been incorporated into your design. Pretty cool, right? You don't have to do this all from scratch. And what I would do, just to make it easy, I will switch off the InfraWorks survey data that I've got. I will keep the data that I need to reference, and now it has become much more cleaner to work with. You will see that that profile has disappeared, and I've got just the NGL of the survey data and the horizontal alignment. As you can see, the survey is more accurate, meaning that certain portions of the road are a bit too low, or the elevation at that point was actually higher than what we had in InfraWorks. We could actually update the position of the alignment using the grips like what I'm showing you here. We can raise it, we can shorten the curve, we can also insert or delete certain points. So depending on what you want, these are basic Civil 3D commands. And if you want to be much more accurate, you can go to the editor and type in exact values that you would like. Okay, so if you're more of a CAD person, you would definitely gravitate towards using the profile. If you like typing in exact values like probably an engineer would do, you've got best of both worlds, basically. Okay, you can also see that the Stormwater Network is actually still there, right, from InfraWorks. We are going to delete that soon so that we can actually create a much more detailed one. So our service duct is still here. And what we want to do is impose this onto that long section to see if we have enough cover, right? So I'm going to drop that in here. And once I select the long section that I want to display it in, look at that. I mean, if you can have that visually on your long section, that is just amazing. You can use the measurement tools in Civil 3D to check if that cover is maintained, and you can actually raise or lower your vertical alignment accordingly. So it's pretty awesome that you can incorporate GIS data into your design. The next thing is the Stormwater Network. Now, if you're familiar, I've done previously a really cool series called the Intelligent Stormwater Design with Civil 3D and Devitech IDES. That is a deep dive in detail about how this process goes. So because of time constraints and we are looking at more process-orientated methodologies, we are just touching on it very, very briefly. If you want to go in depth, head over to our YouTube channel. It is there. It is a 3-part webinar series. Okay, so let's go and look at the stormwater design. So I've fixed up my long section, right? So based on the latest survey data, you can see my GIS duct is there. I've got enough cover, and of course I've sorted out the bands so that it reflects the correct levels. Please don't forget that that is a very crucial part. And I've also assigned the super elevation to this. Super elevation is very important for stormwater, right? We all know that. And as I pan towards the right, you can see it actually gives you the super elevation diagram in the long section, which is quite cool, and it gives you all of the associated data. Again, the template we are using is the Derive Civil 3D template. If you head down to their website, you can download it for free. As you can see, I'm just showing you the super elevation applied. So I've switched on the arrows on my surface, and you can see the road is sloping accordingly as per my stormwater design that I picture, right, or envisage, right? So we've got all of that data in here, and we've also got the latest survey data. All right, so that is going to be flowing in there accordingly. If you wanted to edit the super elevation, you could always go to the tabular editor and input these data accordingly. Or you can use the automated function and edit it where you'd like. It's totally up to you. So we've got all of that done. Super elevation is done, the road is done, we've got the final vertical profile. What I've done to save time is I've drawn a polyline that will represent my stormwater network, right? Now I'm going to head over to the IDAS menu or ribbon, and we are going to go and optimize this or create a stormwater network. So we're going to define it. As you can see, it has a really cool new interface that's really amazing. Not only that is we have a lot of the South African catalogs that are built in here. All right, so you will be familiar with a lot of those municipalities right there. We can select whatever we'd like. Same with the structures. Okay, in this case, we're going to be using Rockler, very commonly used in industry, but there are a lot of other catalog providers that you could use. And what I'm going to do is I've got that polyline in a selected layer. So again, your AutoCAD still plays a role here in terms of process. It makes your life much more easier. I'm going to select that polyline layer, and what I will do is I can also set the outfall if needed. I'm not going to do it at this stage, and I'm just going to delete that polyline. Now, once we do that, you will see it'll take a few seconds, right? So I will select the polyline. It'll filter out per layer, and after a few seconds, if I zoom in, my pipe network has been generated, as you can see it there. So just to show you that I am not bluffing, I will click on the structure. Now I can swap the structure to an inlet, to a manhole, whatever I want to. Again, it's deep dived into my Intelligent Stormwater Design series webinar. It's on our YouTube channel. I can go and check it out. As you can see, it's a manhole and it is intelligent. I can also go and check out the pipe properties. So if I go to the pipe, I can also put that in the profile view if needed. And if I go to the properties, you can see all of that metadata comes through with my design. So it's all intelligent. That's not just a 2D polyline or whatever. And just to show you or give you much more credibility, I will select the network and let's go and have a look at it in 3D. Right, so let's go and have a look quickly. And here we are, that's my entire network. If I zoom in, you can see my pipes are leading into my manholes in this case. I can go and update the structures. Like I said, there are a lot of amazing features in the IDAS for Civil 3D. And we've also got the pipe manager. I can go and swap the structures. I can change the pipes when needed. But what I'm going to do now is go to the pipe manager. And this is how it looks in the IDAS. So you can see everything is in Civil 3D. You're not hopping between two different applications. It's all in one interface. And I can go really detailed here when it comes to the pipe networks. I can go rational, I can go hydrograph, I can go use IPASUM if I like, Kirby, whatever your design standard is. And you can also set the return period accordingly, right? In terms of settings, the times, the velocity, what type of analysis you want to use, all of that is here. and the new interface makes it very simple to actually find. So if you are in the stormwater, sewer, bulk water, water reticulation type of environment, this is a no-brainer to get for Civil 3D. As you can see, we're looking at the long section. I can zoom in where I want to. I can adjust the cover. I can regrade the pipe networks, which we're going to do just now. I have an entire list of the structures. I can specify the manning coefficient, right? You can see those exclamation marks in red actually telling me that you haven't specified it, which is really cool. It guides you on your process as you're doing the design. I can get the quantities as well. And if you get lost, there's a built-in help file to actually help you with this. So you've got enough support here, and it's a very visual, very simple type of interface to use, right? Because I haven't made any changes, I'm gonna just close that, and I am back here into the Civil 3D window. Right, so we've got all of that done and dusted, and our pipe network has been generated for stormwater. Okay. Now, not only that, the surface is also available here. Now, what does the surface play, or what role does it possess? Now, I can actually go and create what we call a watershed. The watershed will actually help us to understand the flow of water, or the perceived flow of water based on the sloping terrain at that point. Right, so you can see I have actually created that in the background. I'm just going to run a quick analysis here on the surface. Here we are, everything looks good, hit OK, and this is the result. Okay, now look at this. It has actually segmented the surface according to slope. Something that you would normally trace in Google Earth, right? But you wouldn't be this detailed. Look at that, it actually gives you the arrows or the slope direction at that point. And the cool thing is we've also got a water drop analysis or water drop feature that wherever we click on the surface, let's say we're dropping water or water is falling at that point, it will show you the direction of flow, the X being the point the water is dropping. And as you can see, it's absolutely correct. Like you can see the flow of water. Not only that, it gives you the low points, that's what that X and O symbol stands for, that is the common drainage point or the lowest point in that area. So it's really, really cool. And then from there, you can base your design, swap your structures, create your catchment areas, get a rational method in there, get your longest water course, those type of things, and you will be up good to go. Right, so that will take you through your stormwater design. Now, here we are, right? So we've got, if we go back to IDAS, we can actually also regrade the network, which is very important. So if we go to OK, we can set the cover, right? So if you want a cover range of 0.5 meter to 3, it will actually grade this accordingly. And I want this to go to my crown. I can set the start slopes, end slope, the sump depth, whatever you want to. Once I hit OK, it will actually sort out the long sections according to that parameter, which is amazing, right? You can see I've already defined my outfall location. That's why that symbol looks a bit different. If you wanted to specify it by yourself, so if I go to the flow directions in IDAS, here we are, I can select outfall and I can actually go and click where I want the outfall to be positioned. But I've already done that just to save time. Again, it's highlighted in my Intelligent Stormwater Design webinar series. So once we have that, if I go back to the pipe manager for Devatech IDAS, you will see that there's a Civil 3D tab where we can create the profile views, and that's exactly what we are going to do. So we can set the start number, we can style is set already, which is quite cool. Just make sure the correct survey data is selected for sampling, and of course, with the amazing styles that have made it so much easier in IDAS, look at that, it's so much easier to understand and read. Okay, so we're going to use the stormwater in this case. Like I said, you can use IDAS for sewer, bulk water, water reticulation, house connections, I mean, all of that. In this case, we're just using it for stormwater. Now, once I do that, in the command line in Civil 3D, as usual, it will tell you what to do. So as you can see here, it's telling me to select the upstream branch. So I'm going to use maybe somewhere up here. Okay, so you'll have a very educated analysis of this position. So once I select the first structure, I can then go somewhere clean in my drawing and drop in the long section for the pipe network. So maybe somewhere there. Once we do that, I can close this window, but I want this to update in Civil 3D. So I would not use this function, right? If I go back to the Home tab, so if I go to Home tab, I will hit Update, and that's it. Now, the reason why we have this is sometimes you make some changes and you don't like it, and you don't want it to sync. It gives you that flexibility sometimes. Okay, here we are. Here's the long section done and dusted. So let's have a look at this. Here are the pipes. Again, I can use the basic Civil 3D grips to adjust the slope, move it up and down. And you can see the structures are actually not positioned correctly. But how would we fix that? It's very easy. Okay, so let's have a look. Now, we don't want the structures going above the ground surface. And with Autodesk adjust invert functionality, we can set that so that it is 0 below or above the surface, right? So it's going to be tied in exactly to the NGL as we want it. And once I hit OK, it'll take a few seconds. As you can see, it's processing on the bottom right corner there. And once it's done, here we are. You can see it snaps in perfectly to where we want it. Now, generally, Civil 3D, if you had to use the pipe networks, it's quite cumbersome. You might have to do it manually. It doesn't actually grade according to your pipe rules sometimes, but Autodesk really blows it out of the park in this and makes it Civil 3D so much more better to actually use in this phase. All right, so we've got our long sections done for both our road as well as our pipe networks. Now let's get to the quantities, right? So we've got everything done and dusted. We need now to actually get the quantities for the roads. This could be the earthworks, which we are going to be doing first. And that's the difference between the datum level and the NGL. Very important for our quantity estimations, right? For our BOQs. And here we are. I'm just going to toggle some of the styles here. It's much more better visually, especially when you're doing cross-section sheets. The process for that is also the same as long sections. You just might have to set up your viewport to a section view. So what I'll do here is I will sample my road at every 20 meters, like you're seeing there. Again, basic Civil 3D stuff. And once I close this ribbon and we zoom into our plan view, you will see that the sample lines have been created at 20-meter increments, which we can adjust accordingly if you wanted it to be closer or further away. There they are. Okay, so we've got that, and now we can actually go and compute our cut and fill. Pretty easy. These steps are the same as we've done in part one, so I'm going to fly through them very quickly. We're going to go to compute the materials, select our road dimension, just make sure if you have multiple alignments, it's the correct alignment. And of course, we've got our cut and fill style, again, IDAS, making it much more easier to read. And we are going to specify our relative surfaces to sample. As you can see in the bottom left, it will take a few seconds to compute. The longer your road, the more seconds it would take. I mean, that is obvious. And once we do that, we can now go and generate a report or a volume table. Now, people like tables, so I'm going to go with tables here. Again, you can see everything is set up. You can adjust the number of rows. Main thing is it is dynamic, meaning if you move the alignment, the earthworks actually update instantly. If you switch it to static, that is on you. You got to make sure that you know what you're doing. And here is the result. We've got all of the cut and fill material for our road construction already. The next thing we'll do is quickly, I will just do it for one layer, is to compute the structural volume of the pavement per layer. Now what we will do is we will just do it for the first layer being your asphalt surfacing. All right, again, I covered this in part one, but I thought it'll be a good refresher for those that are joining for the first time in the series. And I will select my pavement accordingly, and I am done. Once I've done that, I can just hit OK. And in the background, you will see it will start computing. You can see the command line, it's saying compute materials, and it is actually done. So let's go and generate another table here. Okay, so we're going to do a volume table where we now can go and select that structural volume for asphalt. All right, again, we're using the style set by the Devitech Civil 3D template. We're going to click in here, and this is the result. Pretty cool. You've got everything at your disposal that will help you with earthworks, volumes, and so on. And that is it. You could also go and set out the tables for your network. So let's do that very quickly. If I wanted to create a pipe network table for the structures, you can see Devitech has a ton of styles that can suit you. All right, we're going to make sure that it's set to our correct network. Drop that in, and this is again what you are given. Really neat and crisp with all of the information that you would need. Let's do it one more time just for the pipe networks. So that was the structures. We're going to do the same thing again, a whole plethora of styles that are available to you, and we will just hit OK, and we will drop that maybe somewhere to the right, and you will see it gives you the pipe, the inverts, the class, all of those things that are in there. And that's how easy it is to actually just generate all of that quantities for you. You've got enough here that could actually make your BOQ a much more easier task to do. Last but, well, I would say second last in our process before we generate the construction drawings is creating the setting out tables. Now, this is an important part for construction because as a consultant, you need to provide that to your contractor. As you can see, I've added the labels in, again, basic annotate functions that you would use, so I didn't bother to show it, but I've got my PI's label, the start of my road, as well as the end of my road. All right, so all I've got to do now is just create a quick table. All right, if you wanted to know how it was done, I went to this label settings, I put it on, I've used the IDES styles, I've added it into my alignment, and it was done. Pretty easy. Okay, so let's go and generate a table for the alignment setting out data. Okay, so this is just going to be for the from start to end. I'm going to select my correct road again, a ton of styles in this template, really amazing. And it is of course dynamic. And I will drop that maybe somewhere here. You can see setting out data done and dusted. Really nice. Okay, you've got your BCC, PI, and ECC also detailed in this table. You can also export this to a maybe text format or land XML where your surveyor can actually take that in. We would also need to do that for the bell mounts of the intersections. I haven't covered that here, but it's more or less the same process where you add the points along the bell mount, generate them, and then create the table. Very simple. The last step I would really like to show you today is the plan production tools. Now, this is where we're going to generate the long sections for the pipe networks and roads. I've just done it for the roads because the process is exactly the same. We'll select what we want. Again, it's the plan and profile type of configuration. And I've actually created a quick, like a title block. The thing with the title block is the viewports, as you know, in Civil 3D, they need to be configured to plan and profile. Pretty elementary in this stage. So I will just hover to my webinar folder. Here's my sheet template, hit open, and I call it PP for plan and profile, and that is it. Right, I will just walk you through the wizard very quickly. It will create names, universal style. A lot of these are set up correctly with the template, which is great. Correct band set that I want to use. And once I do that, it generates something called a view frame. Now, if I select similar, you'll see that I've got about 4 of them. This means that I would have 4 sheets. These can be edited in terms of the position and so on. Right? So think of it as a camera taking pictures of the road along the way. Simplest way I can put it. All right, so here we are. We're going to now generate the sheet. I have a north arrow on my drawing that is geolocated. You probably would have seen it in my previous webinars. Hit OK, and I will drop in the profile views maybe somewhere here. So let's hit a click. You can see that the profile views have been generated. Again, you would need to update the bands because they are not dynamic, so make sure that the levels are set correctly on the left and the right hand side so that the correct sampling is done. Again, basic Civil 3D training right there. And these are my sheets. Okay, so we've created a sheet set in conjunction with it, and this is the result. Looking very nice, very crisp, very neat. Okay, depending on the size of sheet, you might have to do slight adjustments, but if you plan before that, everything fits in correctly. Okay, so here we are. We've got our plan on the top. What I can do is I can actually freeze certain elements. I could, for example, switch off those sample lines. I could switch off the elevation profile with the arrows because you don't want to see that in construction. I will just kind of freeze the sample lines just to show you that it can be done, and here we are. So you can clean up again basic AutoCAD functionality there, and everything will update according to how you would want it to be. Okay, so we've got our plan and profile sheets done and dusted. You will repeat the process for pipe networks. Really simple, elementary. What I will do is I will just publish just a PDF. Unfortunately, this does take a few minutes. I've had some queries that it takes a bit long. This is currently how it works, and I've actually checked with Autodesk, and currently they're trying to improve that. So I will drop this again on my desktop. You're probably wondering why not on BIM 360. I could have definitely done that, but I'm going to show you a feature in part 3 where it will actually do it much more automated for me. So I will select it there, I will save it accordingly, and it will export into a PDF sheet set with 4 pages in it. Okay, and that is it for today. Let's look at our key takeaways. We did cover a really content-packed type of scenario, but just to keep you up to date on what's going on here. So first of all, we created a project on Autodesk Docs or BIM 360. We gave it a name, we assigned the users to it. In this case, it was Anin, our surveyor, who uploaded that data for our survey in GIS, which I then incorporated into our design. We've got the latest survey data in. That's where we deleted the Prelim network that was created in InfraWorks. If you created it at a much more detailed level in InfraWorks, definitely you wouldn't have to delete it. But just to show you the power of IDAS, how amazing it is for this functionality, you will see that how quick it was to actually generate that pipe network. We adjusted the inverts using the adjust invert command. And then, of course, you could have went on with the analysis, defining the catchments, putting your rational method in, getting your Q values, all of those things. Simple, straightforward design process that you would do in consulting. And you can see the snapshot on the right-hand side showing you that we have a lot of South African content and catalogs that can be used, as well as the grading function to ensure that the cover is met according to the network design. And last but not least, we ended off by creating construction drawings, the long sections that we did for plan and profile. Again, that process will be repeated for pipe networks. I just did it for roads so that you would get the message. And we now have our, let's say that document, we renamed it to tender. It went out to tender, the contractor has been appointed, and now we have generated construction drawings. That is what we have covered today. Not only that, we brought in the GIS data, which I shouldn't forget, and we imposed it into a long section to see that we have ample coverage or cover relative to the finished level of the road for the service at hand. So how can we help you? Of course, this is our mission statement where we solve our customers' problems through digital transformation, helping them to design and make a better world. And as you can see, the collaborative use of software in the BIM environment for civil infrastructure and what we show you here on our webinars definitely live up to this. Of course, we base our consulting methodology on something we call iAdopt. It is our framework where we assess, educate, and consult your processes based on a common purpose that's interlinked with your people, your processes, and technologies. We do a lot of consulting, helping companies become much more efficient, leaner, BIM ready. I mean, we've done a lot of implementations that help consultants work much more innovative and much more efficiently. So we also provide training, so business assessments, training, BIM implementation, data management, as well as consulting. If you want to get in touch with us, we have offices in Johannesburg and in Cape Town. Those are all our handles for LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Of course, our YouTube channel where all of our webinars and events are uploaded. So if you know a buddy that couldn't attend today but would have really appreciated this content, you can always hit them up and send them to our YouTube channel. And we also post an amazing support desk for our clients where we are open from 8 a.m. to 11:30 at night. All right, really comprehensive support there. And of course, if you want to reach out to me directly, you're more than welcome to. There are my contact details on the bottom left, shuaib@bakerbenz.com. If you're really enjoying the content that we're producing, or you have an idea of your own of something you would like to see, hit me up. We can definitely try and put something together in the future. Also, if you're grappling with certain things or you're working on something really cool, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, either on LinkedIn or via my email. If you want to look at anything civil infrastructure design or scan to BIM in terms of products, those are all of the products that I could assist you with, right? My core being InfraWorks, Civil 3D, Recap, AutoCAD, and the Autodesk portfolios for the cloud collaboration. Secondary, I also touch on this depending on the workflow involved. However, we've got architects and structural engineers, mechanical specializations that are much more catered to products like Inventor, Revit structures, and so on, that could help you with the detail. But you could always hit me up and I could put you in touch with them. Of course, IDA is a really big part of civil infrastructure. You should definitely head down to the Devitech website, check it out much more, or you can hit me up with an email. I can provide you with info on that. Scan to BIM, virtual reality, TopCon, CAD learning for learning on the go. And if you want to know in a nutshell as how I can help you, of course, training, we can provide training. It can be virtually, face-to-face, depending on the circumstances here at the moment. We love to do project-based training, so you can learn on the go with the project, as well as scan to BIM. Consulting and process analysis, so if you want us to look at your company processes, your drawing office processes, how you can be more innovative, leaner, faster, quicker, we can also do that. Presenting and demos, so if you want us to present a certain solution at an event, or you would like us to present it to your teams, we are more than welcome to do that. And of course, webinars definitely on our YouTube channel. And if you want to have a chat about something, LinkedIn is the best place to find me. So let's head over to the Q&A. So just give me a second. Let me know what you thought of it. If you haven't jotted down anything on the chat box, I will actually have a look at it very quickly. So let me just have a scroll. Okay, here is one regarding the survey data. What formats are actually supported by Civil 3D? Okay, so all of the major formats that are industry recognized are supported. And what I say by that is text files, so TXT, CSV, so Excel, land XML, that is all brought into that. Another cool thing is if you have point cloud data and you import that into Civil 3D, you can actually extract the surface, a tin surface from point cloud data. It might take a bit of a hitting on your PC depending on your specs, but it's a really cool way to incorporate survey data into that. You can, point clouds are not supported on the Autodesk cloud application at the moment. Probably it's in the works, but you could definitely upload the data to there and someone can actually download it on their side. A very simple solution there. Okay, the next one is with the stormwater analysis. Just trying to understand this. Okay, so this is resulting with the hydrograph. Yes, you can create your own patterns and stuff like that in IDAS. So I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. So you can set up patterns, curves, those type of things. If you have the data, you can actually import that as well. Set up the type of demand that you would need. It's not really widely used here in South Africa, but I know a lot of South African clients that are having international projects where IDF data is available. You can define that, bring it into your design and take it from there. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here? Looks like that is it for today. I think I probably overloaded you guys a little bit with the info, but I would say really head back here once it's uploaded to YouTube, maybe watch it a bit slower or something like that, and it will make much more sense. So with that, I would like to say thank you for attending the webinar part 2. I really look forward to seeing you all for part 3, which is going to be really, really cool. It's more catered to the construction side, how you would manage tasks while still be connected to the office. So have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and I will catch you all for part 3 coming really, really soon. Have a great weekend and enjoy, everyone.